about it, I know that this is not the case for everyone, but generally parents do a lot for their kids. They do take care of them, they do nurture them and all of that. And if you look carefully at everything that your parents have done for you, all that they have provided, all the opportunities that they have provided, all the sacrifices that they have made so that you can have the life that you had, or you could have the opportunities that you had, you really can't pay them back for all the things that they did, right? But I believe that the honor that we give to them is also some kind of satisfaction for them. It doesn't have to be something enormous. I know that there are people who are waiting. They are thinking, oh, once I am rich, I will make sure that my mother never suffers. Once I am rich, I will make sure that my parents never suffer and all of that. There are people who are thinking that way. But I believe that you don't have to wait until you are rich. I believe that every one of us has something that we can do just to show our parents that we honor them, just to show our parents that we appreciate them. I remember many years ago, I think I was probably about 10 years old or maybe even younger. And there was I think there was a minister, a pastor or so, who visited our home, probably a friend of my uncle's or something like that. It wasn't my uncle himself who was saying it. But whoever it was saying that, or was asking if we ever tell our parents thank you. And in my mind, I was like, tell them thank you for what? In my mind, I was like, tell them thank you for what? It's not that I didn't understand that they were doing a lot. I did understand that they were doing a lot. But for me, it was also a bit awkward. So he actually gave us a task that we should I understand if they give you something or they do something, then you say thank you. But he was like, no, you shouldn't wait for that. You should say thank you whether they are doing something or not. You should just practice saying thank you and showing gratitude. And I remember I struggled with that for a long time. I wanted to do it, but I don't know. I just struggled with that so much. But growing up, or now that, and I sometimes wish we could figure things out much earlier, but a lot of the time it's when you get into your adult years that you really begin to understand your parents. You really begin to understand the sacrifices that they have made and the things that they have had to go through just to make sure that you could have a roof over your head, just to make sure you could have some place to stay, just to make sure that you could have food to eat and all of that. And so now I really do not take it for granted at all. I try to use every opportunity to say thank you, to show my gratitude to my parents. And I think it's really important because you don't know how much it touches them. It actually does touch them a lot. And so that's something I would like to encourage all of us to do as well. Take the opportunity, any opportunity you get. It doesn't have to be Mother's Day or Father's Day. It doesn't have to be their birthdays. Just randomly pick the phone, send them a card, send them a gift. Just do something that will let them know that you are celebrating them and you are honoring them for all that they've done. It's unfortunate that the generation that we live in, on the other side, so there are those who want to honor their parents, but they're waiting till they're rich. On the other side, there are also those who feel like they don't have to honor their parents. A few weeks ago, I was watching a video, and it was like a social experiment kind of thing where a mother and a son were arguing in public because the mother, it was two scenarios, but one of the scenarios was that the mother was living with the son, and the son felt like the mother was spending too much, costing him too much, basically. And so they also asked people on the street what they thought. And I was surprised at the number of people who felt that children don't have to take care of their parents. And I was like, wow. It really shocked me, because you would think that for people who have given you their whole lives, for people who have given up everything for you, and again, I know that that's not the situation for everyone, but for people who have given up their whole lives and given everything for you, in the moment when they need you, why wouldn't you be available to help them or to support them in that way? For me, I feel like it's the least you can do. in honoring your parents, right? And even the Bible talks about the fact that the one who does not provide for his own, especially those of his own house, and it's talking about the widows, taking care of the widows, so the older women who have lost their husbands and so on. It says that someone like that has denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. That's in 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8. And so God takes it very seriously how we treat the parental figures that he has put in our lives. I think that this covers basically honoring all kinds of natural parents, so honoring foster parents and parents-in-law as well. But then there are a few extra things that I will mention about honoring these two other kinds of parents. But before that, I will pause here, and if there's anything that anyone would like to share, please unmute yourself and then share. If you have any questions or if you have any comments, anything at all that you would like to share, please let me know.
You said almost everything, just probably re-echoing everything you've already said. As children, I think it's vital for us to really appreciate what our parents have done for us, and not just because, again, it's quite specific. Not everybody got support from their parents, but at least people that got all the support that they can get to help them in life, to just appreciate them in words, in kind if you can, and how the Bible also speaks about long life being linked to how you relate to older people in your life. I think it's very vital because we don't always focus on that. And again, we all get to the point where we feel we don't really have to listen to what they have to tell us. And there's just that temptation of discarding even their views or advice in our lives because we think that we know what's best for us. How I see it, or how I apply that to my life, is my parents have been super helpful. It will be very hard for me to even think of not supporting them when they are older or when I have the means to. And yes, sometimes I'm tempted to also think that I don't have enough right now financially, and so I'm just going to wait till I get the big job that pays so well to be able to support them. But sometimes the little things that matter, just calling to check in on them because I'm not with them physically right now. Calling them occasionally. Sometimes it gets tiring because my parents love to call me a lot, like sometimes 3 times a day. I'm like, this is too much. So sometimes I purposely don't answer their calls because I get overwhelmed. Like, I get so many calls every day. I'm like, oh my God, I'm fine, I'm alive, don't call me so much. But I've had older people say, I think I listened to this Nigerian pastor once, and she was like, it doesn't matter how many times they call you. Even if it's 50 times a day, pick it. Because a day is going to come where they won't be there again. Mm-hmm. And you'll be wishing that I wish my mom would have called me, and she's not there. And you're going to remember all the days that I'm like, oh my God, my mom cost me too much, too much. Everything happens, I'm going to call her. She has something. I'm like, you still have children with you at home. Why are you calling me so many times? And when I tell her, my mom is super sensitive. Like, I can feel her getting on the phone being, do you not want me to call you? I did not say that. Just don't call me too many times, So just really navigating that. And I've become a bit, I've softened, because I just try to imagine myself having a child, not with me, and wanting to know how the person is, and, trying to think like how I would think if I were her. Mm-hmm. So that helps a lot. And also my dad, sometimes it's hard to know what he wants. If you try to get me something, he's like, you don't have the means to, don't bother, So just like, the little you can, showing that you really appreciate them, and even the older people in your lives as well, because people would honor their parents, but be disrespectful to older people around them. And older people do have like some sort of spiritual authority, if I can put it that way. And so just really knowing what your words mean to people and how theirs could potentially affect you as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kezia. Thank you.
No worries.
Sally, you unmuted yourself. Did you want to say something as well?
No. Thank you. I was just saying, I understand what Kay was saying, and I think I don't know if it's from the same man of God that I heard that thing for, that if you're supposed to live 70 years of your life and die at 70, you should just calculate the number of years your parents still have to live. So every year you are seeing them less and less. So every opportunity you get, just, spend time with them, honor them, and you get there. So do unto them as you would want your children to do unto you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's really true. I think that's one thing that we always forget, that whatever you are sowing, you will reap. And of course, you don't just do it because you want something out of it, but then genuinely understand that this is the way that God wants us to go. So maybe quickly going through the honoring foster parents, a good example or good examples in the Bible would be Samuel and Eli. So Samuel honored Eli so much. Samuel listened to the training that Eli gave him. And even after Samuel heard God's voice, Samuel didn't kind of push Eli to the side like, yeah, now I've heard God's voice. You've never heard God's voice. Because the Bible says that in those days, the word of God was precious. He didn't push Eli to the side. He was still very respectful of Eli. And we spoke about this as well when we handled Esther as a virtuous woman in the Bible. The fact that Esther never pushed Mordecai's advice to the back burner. Esther continued to respect Mordecai, and what Mordecai asked her to do, she did it. Even after she became queen, she did not just ignore Mordecai in the things that he did or in the things that he said. And in the end, it was Mordecai that really, we always talk about the fact that Esther was so brave and all of that. But I think that without Mordecai's push, Esther would have just been hanging out in the palace. First of all, she wouldn't have known that people were planning to kill the king, and she wouldn't have been able to save that situation. Secondly, she wouldn't have known what Haman was planning against the Jews, and again, she wouldn't have been able to save that situation. And so I think it's really important to appreciate their efforts to love you, because a lot of the time, and I mean, it's a lot, but then children especially, but even sometimes adults, fail to appreciate what their foster parents or step parents, so those who are not their biological parents but are a parent figure over them, really struggle to appreciate them and always have this mentality of, you're not my mother, you're not my father. But motherhood and fatherhood is not just about birthing a child biologically. There's a lot that it takes, or there's a lot that goes into being a mother or a father. And so it's important that we see these people as representations of the love of God in our lives, and we accept their love and appreciate the efforts that they make to love us. And like I said, a lot of the time, it's only when we grow up that we begin to really appreciate our parents. Like, I think about it and I'm like, my mom did a very good job raising me, and I thank God that he gave me the kind of mom that I had, because I think about it and I'm like, if my mom was parenting the way I think I would have parented if I had a child like me, things would have probably turned out very different. And so I'm so grateful to God for my mom. Like, I always pray, God bless her for me and bless my dad. Like, just bless them for me, because I don't know how life would have been if they had been any different. And yet, when I was younger, I remember there was a time I told my mom, when I'm 18 years old, I'm going to look for my real mother. Because I thought my mom had a favorite. She favored my sister more. So I was like, nah, I'm going to look for my real mother when I'm 18. And she laughed and she told me when I'm ready, I should ask her for transport money. She'll give me the transport money to go. Imagine. But yeah, those are the things I love about my mom. And then finally, we look at honoring your parents-in-law. So I know in Africa, there's a thing about parents-in-law, especially when it comes to women. When we think about mothers-in-law, Nigerian movies have really twisted our minds when it comes to mothers-in-law. We always feel like mothers-in-law are people to fight with or people to compete with. But if we come to understand that your parents-in-law are also your parents, because in Christ, when you get married, you and your husband are one. So your parents become his parents, and his parents also become your parents. And that is true oneness. And so their blessings are really just as effective as your own parents, and you should honor them just as you honor your own parents. A classical example is Ruth and Naomi, and we spoke at length about that as well when we tackled Ruth as a virtuous woman. But then when we also look at Moses and Jethro, I really love this, the relationship between Moses and Jethro, because when we look at Exodus chapter 18, verse 7, this is the time when Jethro was coming to visit Moses whilst he was leading the Israelites into the promised land, so whilst they were in the wilderness. And at this point, Moses had done so many supernatural things. Moses had split the Red Sea. He had struck a rock for water to come from it. God had used Moses in mighty ways. But Moses didn't assume that he knew what he was doing and he couldn't honor his father-in-law anymore. In let me see if I have it here. Let me just read it. Yes, Exodus 18:7, it says, and Moses went out to meet his father-in-law and did obeisance and kissed him. So it means he bowed and then he kissed him, and they asked each other of their welfare, and they came into the tent. And even more than that, when Jethro had observed what was happening in the camp of Israel, he went ahead to advise Moses that, Moses, what you're doing is not helpful. You need to get other people, you need to delegate, get other people to help you. And Moses listened to his father-in-law. He didn't think that, Jethro, have you ever heard God's voice? You've never heard God's voice. I'm the one who speaks to God face to face as God speaks with a friend, as a man speaks with his friend. And so what can you tell me about leading the people of God? But Moses actually paid attention to Jethro, and he did well by doing that, because even as spiritual as Moses is, he could have broken down physically just by putting on such a huge burden on himself. And so just as Ruth honored Naomi and Moses honored Jethro, we should never feel like we are too spiritual. We should never feel like we are too influential. We should never think that we are too knowledgeable for the parental figures in our lives. And I think that's what I want us to take away this evening, that no matter who they are, no matter what they've done as well. So yes, we've said that not everyone had the opportunity for their parents to take care of them the way they would have wanted, but forgive them if they didn't take care of you and still show them love, so that God can use that love to touch their hearts and God can transform them as well. So whether they did well, whether they did not do well, whatsoever the case, God expects us to honor our parents, and let us look on the examples that we see in the Bible to indeed honor the parents that God has put in our lives, our natural parents, so our biological parents, our foster parents or guardians, step parents, parents-in-law. Amen.